produced in high definition by Fox 50. Viewer discretion is advised.
Debbie was at a local bar pool hall. She stayed until closing.
I had stopped by Sticks and Stones that night. I had seen her there. I'd had a drink with her. I chatted with her. I gave her a hug, and I left.
We knew something was wrong when her car was left there.
What's going on? What's this about? Why are we being bothered? Why am I being arrested? I never got an answer until after I wrote the statement.
I don't believe we violated anybody's rights. I think we did our job. I think that he confessed to killing Deborah Key, and that was what we wanted.
It crosses the line when it's either viewed as a threat or punishment.
A suspect who confessed roams free. Tonight, the former DA, the lead investigator, and the suspect himself, NC Wanted in high definition, starts now.
Good evening, I'm Gerald Owens. Welcome to NC Wanted. Tonight we continue our in-depth look into the unsolved case of Debbie Key. She's the Orange County woman who disappeared the morning of December 1st, 1997. But after an investigation full of dead ends, authorities finally get a break. It centers on a suspect they've been eyeing for years, someone who was with Debbie the night she disappeared. But a bold plan backfires and erupts into a public controversy between the Carrboro Police and the Orange County District Attorney. While inside Delzell's apartment, the investigator looks around. He notices items from a hobby store where Delzell used to work, some with the price tag still showing. After further investigation, including a trace of a purchase Delzell made using someone else's credit card, authorities draw up arrest warrants for possession of stolen goods, obtaining property by false pretenses, and identity theft. This becomes their opportunity to confront Delzell about the murder of Debbie Key. But by the time the warrants are ready, Delzell is in Stanley, North Carolina, living with his girlfriend's parents. So Lieutenant Lau plans a long road trip to face Delzell and get a statement about Debbie Key's disappearance and presumed death.
Generally, in cases where deception is used, the police have done a thorough investigation and they've simply come to a brick wall. They have evidence, but the evidence doesn't point to anyone in particular. So they're trying to figure out a way to develop an additional evidence, and usually it's by attempting to get the person who was a suspect to make a statement.
To public clear yourself, you come downtown with this?
The number one challenge is that there's no body. Debbie's body has never been found. And historically, it's very difficult to try a case when the victim's body has not been recovered.
Neither Lieutenant Lau nor Carl Fox would discuss what happened behind closed doors.
One was a letter that appeared to be...
But media outlets report an alleged meeting between the two men to discuss the Carrboro Police Department's plan to get Delzell's confession. Reports also surface about a phony arrest warrant for murder and a letter from the DA's office that appears to have been signed by Carl Fox. It's September 8, 2004. Four investigators from Carrboro set out on their long drive to Stanley. Eventually, Andrew Delzell and his girlfriend are pulled over by a Lincoln County Sheriff's deputy.
Put your hands behind your back.
Delzell is asked to get out of the car and escorted to a cruiser nearby. Delzell is put in the back seat. Next to him, in plain view, the phony murder warrant. Then, according to court documents, Lieutenant Lau reads aloud a letter written on the Orange County DA's letterhead. But Dalzell is unaware the letter is a ruse. He hears a persuasive story about how DA Carl Fox would seek the death penalty. And absolutely no plea deals would be made unless he tells investigators where he discarded Debbie Key's body. According to court documents, once Dalzell is brought back to the Carrboro police station, he breaks down in tears.
He stated, "I did not mean it to happen, it just happened. I just snapped and took her body to Wilmington and put her in a dumpster."
Dalzell's confession remains sealed to this day. But when he made his statement, the investigator allegedly told him not to say another word and presented Dalzell with a Miranda rights form. Dalzell initialed each line, stating he understood his rights. Then a 5-hour interrogation ensued, and Dalzell hand-wrote 2 statements and typed 1. He was then charged with second-degree murder for the death of Debbie Key. The case appears to be a slam dunk, but it's about to unravel.
Debbie was very friendly. And what I think is that the signals were mixed. Because she was also very private. She was not a loose person. She didn't have loose morals. She was actually kind of the spiritual one of us. I think he might have touched her in an intimate way, and I think she slapped him because that was kind of Debbie. And it's hard at the She would be as friendly as she could to people, to a point. When it got physical, and then she had a shield. It was an automatic thing with her.
I just say that the only really scenario that I can really think about is that she left with him.
What I've seen historically is that it's not a technique of first resort. I mean, it's literally a technique of last resort. So you don't start off with deception to try to get someone to give you a statement.
November 24th, 2004, Andrew Dalzell's attorney files a motion to suppress his client's confession. Both the defense and the prosecution reconvene on January 10th, 2005 to present their cases. To the surprise of Debbie Key's family and friends, Orange County Superior Court Judge Wade Barber rules to throw out Dalzell's statement.
The letter indicated that if the defendant confessed, he would not be subject to the death penalty. The court looked at that more of a threat, and therefore that's one factor in deciding whether this was a voluntary statement or did he just make a statement because he was trying to avoid the death penalty.
According to public records, Judge Barber says Carrboro police officers fabricated official court documents and used deception and trickery. And officers should have immediately informed Dalzell of the real reasons they were arresting him.
He found that they had him in custody, did not advise him of his Miranda warnings, got a statement from him, brought him back to Carrboro, and then gave him his Miranda warnings and took another statement from him.
They committed these violations believing that the ends justified the means.
I don't believe we violated anybody's rights. I think we did our job. I think that he confessed to killing Deborah Key, and that was what we wanted.
I don't agree with Judge Barber's decision. I don't think it was as if he had a gun held to his head. I think that he may have felt threatened, but it was threatened by the consequences of his own actions. That's how I feel.
People will not confess to things if they know it's not true, but if you threaten them with something, they may confess, may make a statement just because they want to avoid the bad things that are going to happen to them.
Judge Barber's decision to throw out Dalzell's confession sparks more controversy between law enforcement and the prosecution, shifting the focus away from the suspect.
If the officers cross the line and push a defendant who is not familiar with the tactics and other things to say things that were not true, then the court doesn't want to use them against somebody and put somebody in jail for something that is, in fact, false.
At the time, media reports say Carl Fox knew few details about the plan. Fox does say he gave Lieutenant Lau a piece of his official letterhead, but was unaware it would be used to threaten or coerce Dalzell into confessing. Fox also says he never gave Carrboro authorization to sign his name to the letter, and didn't know Lieutenant Lau would interrogate Andrew Dalzell without advising him of his rights or the true charges against him. Fox also says it's possible Lieutenant Lau mentioned a fake warrant, but Fox says he has no recollection of that conversation.
Under our state constitution, the prosecutor is required to advise officers in his jurisdiction as to how to proceed and come up with how they're going to focus on this individual and how they're going to proceed with the investigative techniques, because the prosecutor ultimately has to present the case to the judge and be able to argue to the court why it should accept the confession.
Made the statements that he made at that point, the officer immediately stopped.
After Carl Fox's public statements, Carrboro Police Chief Carolyn Hutchison responds with an open letter to the media. In it, she said, quote, "I directed Lieutenant John Lau to meet directly with District Attorney Carl Fox to discuss the plan and the legal issues surrounding it before we decided to move forward with the plan and implementation. I told Lieutenant Lau that we would not proceed with the plan if we did not have the full support of District Attorney Fox. We wanted to be certain that our methods and tactics would be appropriate and within the bounds of existing law and procedure." End quote. In one news article, Fox says he would not prosecute any case in which officers break the law to obtain evidence. To this, Chief Hutchison responds, quote, "This statement suggests District Attorney Carl Fox now believes a plan he previously endorsed is outside the bounds of the law. Though the day before, immediately following Judge Barber's ruling, District Attorney Fox stood up and informed the judge that he intended to pursue an appeal of the ruling." She adds, quote, "According to Lieutenant Lau, District Attorney Fox handed him the blank stationery, wished him luck, and told him, 'You, the Carrboro Police Department, have nothing to lose.'" End quote. So with the public controversy and no usable confession, the state is unable to proceed with the case. All charges are dropped against Andrew Dalzell, and he is later released on $25,000 bail. That same month, Debbie's family requests that a judge declare her legally dead. In July 2005, another technicality works in Dalzell's favor. He's charged with 6 counts of third-degree sexual exploitation of a minor, after investigators allegedly find pornographic pictures of teenagers on a computer seized from his Lincoln County residence. But the judge again drops the charges after Dalzell's attorney states the evidence was illegally obtained and Carrboro police did not have probable cause.
I think we're as close as we can be with the information that we have available. Because we've done a lot of things and we run out of things to do. So we're relying on somebody out there who has information that's going to make this case for us. I think we used all the tools that were at our disposal, and I can live with that.
I'm absolutely convinced that this case was as thoroughly worked and investigated as it could be. Every rock was turned over. Every individual that we could find that was remotely associated with Deborah Key was contacted. And at the end of the day, the only person left that we could not eliminate was Andrew Dalzell.
She's still alive in our hearts.
And as long as we are remembering her,
she's still alive.
Anything bad that happened to her did not deprive the earth of her.
And her soul and her beautiful personality, and we will always remember her.
So we've heard from witnesses, friends, investigators, and many of the major players in this case. But what about the suspect himself? Here's more of our exclusive interview with Andrew Dalzell.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, there are 2 large SUVs and 3 or 4 cars surrounding us, forcing us off the side of the road. And this mass of human flesh just disgorges from all vehicles, and I'm half awake. I'm tired, I'm hungry, and out of the blue, I have guns in my face, screaming, "Get out of the car, put your hands up, get out of the car, put your hands up, or we will shoot." So, in the midst of deciding whether I should soil myself or comply, I just managed to open the door and what's going on? I apparently wasn't fast enough in jumping out of my car and lying on my face in the mud for them to be happy. And just the amount of emotion and confusion that floods through you at that point is enough to break you in and of itself. But then being shoved into a car, and he throws down this little wad of papers, and I swear to God it had to have been 2 inches thick of just charges wrapped in this lie from the DA that said, "Second-degree murder, we will be seeking the death penalty unless you confess and lead us to the body." Signed from a man that goes to your church. More than anything else, knowing that Carl Fox supposedly had signed off on this is what just shattered me, and I was gone. I wasn't here anymore. I'm quickly shoveled out of the car and thrown in the back door and into a tiny little meat box room and left to sit for probably another 2 hours just by myself to stew. And I can hear them muttering amongst themselves. I can't make anything out. And they come by and ask, you want anything to drink? You want anything to eat? All you got to do is write this out.
Write what out?
Just make a confession, basically. Confess. We'll give you food and water. Confess, and we'll give you your phone call.
What did you think when they asked you to confess?
I didn't know what the hell they were asking about. Because all I saw, because I couldn't turn that thing over when I was in the back seat of the car, all I saw was second-degree murder, and I saw a packet like that thick, and then the letter from the DA, which he dropped in my lap separately.
So you had no idea why they were asking you to confess to?
Yeah, I had no clue. I mean, I saw this whole little packet, and the letter from the DA I read about half of. I can't even remember all of it.
So what'd you do?
I sat there, and I don't know what, I sat flat out said, I don't know what's going on. What is this about? What I had been screaming from the inception when they pulled up and, put guns in my face. What's going on? What's this about? Why are we being bothered? Why am I being arrested? I never got an answer until after I wrote the statement.
And what'd you say in the statement?
I told them what they wanted to hear. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to be with my girlfriend at that point, Stacy. I wanted to be left alone. I wanted to sleep. I wanted to eat.
What did you write down? Do you remember? What did you say?
I don't remember anything other than saying something about Wilmington and a dumpster.
Where'd that come from?
I have a very active imagination. I've always loved Wilmington. As far as I can guess, the only thing I can think of is that I went to a happy place, and I just kind of let my hand go. I was out of my mind. I was scared. I knew that although these charges were dismissed, it hadn't gone to trial, which means that at any point, it could be 5 minutes from now, could be tomorrow, could be another 10 years down the line. This can come back up again.
What would you say to Debbie Key's friends and family who believe to this day that you killed her?
I honestly don't know. I hope she's alive. I hope to God she's alive. But if for whatever reason she isn't, if it makes you feel better to have somebody to blame, to put a face on that, you need to do what you need to do to feel better, to put yourself at ease. I'm going to try to continue to live my life as best as I can, as I've been raised to. I worry about her every day. I wonder where she is, how she's doing, what's happened to her. At least once a day, every day. And that will continue for the rest of my life. That's the burden I carry.
After this ordeal, Andrew Dalzell was never tried for Debbie Key's murder, so double jeopardy wouldn't apply if he's ultimately charged again in his case. In terms of investigative tactics, deception and trickery are acceptable when a suspect is either uncooperative or there's insufficient evidence to make an arrest. In this case, the confession was thrown out because the court found the officers didn't immediately read Dalzell his rights or tell him exactly why he was being arrested. And the fake letter constituted a threat, which could have compelled Dalzell to make an involuntary confession. As for investigators, this case is by no means over. Stay with us, there's more straight ahead. Welcome back to NC Wanted. Time now to recap tonight's case. She was a free spirit from Orange County who disappeared after a night at a Carborough bar. After Debbie Key's disappearance the night of December 1st, 1997, law enforcement worked the case as a homicide. Despite her murder confession, the judge deemed the suspect's statement inadmissible based on the way it was obtained. Regardless of the court's decision, investigators, along with Debbie's friends and family, are still hopeful that one day this case can be solved. If you have any information on the unsolved case of Debbie Key, call us right now toll-free at 1-866-43-WANTED or go to ncwanted.com and click Report a Tip. As always, your identity can remain confidential. Join us next time as we profile more fugitives and unsolved cases in our area. Remember, together we can fight to protect the quality of life we hold dear in North Carolina. I'm Gerald Owens. Good night.